This podcast is made possible by your support and your donations. Thank you. And by the purchase of my book called Everyday Buddhism, Real-Life Buddhist Teachings and Practices for Real Change. I will post an affiliate link to the book on Amazon in the show notes. And if you've already read it, please take a minute to rate and review. And also consider purchasing it again for a friend or family member as a gift. Welcome to Everyday Buddhism, making every day better by applying the proven tools found in Buddhist concepts. Welcome to episode 119 of Everyday Buddhism, making every day better. A quick note before we start the episode, don't forget to listen to after the podcast episode for some new things happening over at the Everyday Buddhism Patreon, where more offerings are available to public Patreon members and all tiers of the Everyday Buddhism Patreon. But now, to the episode. It's been a long time since I've done a solo episode of this podcast, and I have been getting requests for more of them, to include those along with the guest episodes. But a warning to those of you who requested more of just me, that's what you're going to get. More of just me. And if this episode is any indication, you may want to go back to requesting guest episodes. This episode might be a bit rambling because I have a feeling of what I want to talk about. And some rough notes, of course, but I may have to talk around things until I get just the right feeling. In some ways, what I want to say is ineffable, since much of this comes from my own direct experience with also some basic references to actual Buddhist teachings. For example, in our everyday Sangha, we have been reading and reflecting on the sutra, The 8 Realizations of Great Beings, using the book by Brother Phap Hai of Thich Nhat Hanh's Plum Village tradition. The 8 Realizations of Great Beings comes to us through the quote-unquote Silk Road Buddhist, lineage, Silk Road Buddhist history. Their texts and translations that refers to the transmissions of the teachings coming to us from not just India or East Asia, but from the Middle East and Central Asia. This was a sutra I wasn't familiar with until I heard it discussed on the Plum Village podcast, The Way Out is In. It is a very early Mahayana Buddhist sutra and has quickly become a favorite of mine because of its comprehensive, yet concise, presentation of the major Mahayana Buddhist teachings and practices that are totally applicable to our lives today. I will post a link to the book and the podcast that I just mentioned in the show notes. Now, the 8 Realizations of Great Beings was translated into Chinese by the Parthian monk An Shigao. Parthian refers to an ancient Iranian empire in the area of modern-day Iraq and Iran, where An Shigao was born in 148 CE. The sutra offers guidance on the path to enlightenment through awareness of key spiritual principles that we know from Buddhism. They are the impermanence of the world, that desire brings suffering, that the mind is always searching outside of itself and never feels fulfilled, and that laziness binds us to ignorance and unwholesome mental states, and ignorance is the cause of the endless round of birth and death. And practicing generosity and maintaining equanimity toward everyone breaks the cycle of negative thoughts and actions. Desires for wealth, beauty, pleasure, ambition, and food can create endless problems. And the eighth principle is that taking the great vow, which is the Bodhisattva vow, helps bring all beings joy. Now, the other key principle mentioned in the sutra and commentaries is that meditating and practicing based on these principles can bring joy even during difficult times. The principles I just reviewed are not quotes of the 8 realizations, but an overview. In this episode, I'd like to talk about the 5th realization and how we can use it in our everyday lives right now, right at this minute, in the world as it is, in our lives as they are. And I will emphasize, in the world as it is. I'll read this 5th realization as it was translated by Thich Nhat Hanh. Quote, "Ignorance is the cause of the endless rounds of birth and death. Bodhisattvas always listen to and learn from others so their understanding and skillful means can develop, and so they can teach living beings and bring them great joy." Unquote. Now, the emphasis in this realization is on the bodhisattva ideal of, I'll say, showing up, service, teaching through skillful means, and most importantly, as bodhisattvas, is to bring great joy. One of the things I've been reflecting on in this sutra is the sense of a conflict between the action called for in this realization of quote-unquote teaching and then bringing great joy. Now, with the word teach, there's a connotation that you're lecturing in some sense, that you're sharing your great truth and your great wisdom with others. And I'm going to propose that that's not the point at all of this 5th realization. The point here is skillful means. So bringing that into the world as it is today, the world today is all about polarity and divisiveness. I won't go into details about all that. We're all experiencing it. I'm starting there just to position us in the world we live in today. Now, there's a pervasive feeling of hopelessness, overwhelm, anger, and resignation, certainly not great joy. I feel as if this 5th realization is a call to us as baby bodhisattvas, a call to action. Not action, say, in the form of protesting or social media posts urging thoughtfulness, which, that's sort of like, okay, I'm going to teach these people to be discerning and so forth. So I'm going to make this post about how I feel about these things so other people will understand. No, I don't think that's the call. I believe the call is to live fully soaked in the bodhisattva ideal. Now, if we take the bodhisattva ideal to heart, it's there to bring great joy. It's being with what is rather than trying to adjust or change what is. It's fully being with life as it is, as a companion to everyone else dealing with the world as it is. So in this seeming conflict between teaching living beings and bringing them great joy, the hook or resolution to it is that it hinges on skillful means. Now, skillful means requires listening and understanding, not preaching or quote-unquote teaching in the way you might think of teaching. Now, Reverend Kwayo Kabose told this story frequently. He said, "I would prepare this great talk, or I thought I gave a great Dharma talk, although he was the first one to make mention of the fact that half the time he didn't know what he was going to talk about until he was walking up to the podium. Anyway, He would present his talk, and afterward he would feel that he got his message across. Now, after the service, when the Sangha gathered around, and as he would relate, Shin Buddhist churches in Shin Buddhist churches, there typically are a bunch of older Japanese women that make up the majority, and many, many times, some of these people would come up and say, "You know, Sensei, I don't think your sermon was very good today." And he would answer saying, "Wow, okay." Then he would use skillful means, pointing out what might be going on in that transaction between him giving a talk and them listening to the talk. He would answer, "You know what? I think maybe you weren't listening very well today." Now, this anecdote sticks in my head about not preaching, but being a student among other students, modeling what the best of that can be. So skillful means requires listening and understanding. In our current divisive climate, nobody listens, but everyone talks. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody knows what the best thing is, and everybody knows who the bad guy is, right? One of the things Brother Thich Nhat Hanh, in his book on the 8 Realizations, emphasized was developing fearlessness and curiosity towards suffering. Now that means not escaping from it, which I tend to do. If we have curiosity towards anything, towards our own thoughts or towards what someone's saying to us, then we're not judging, right? I believe those things are mutually exclusive. If I'm holding curiosity, I can't judge because I am open, completely curious. Asking, what is this? Could there be some truth here for me? Do I have everything figured out and set in stone? In other words, checking our own truths. Asking ourselves, am I right? Is that what I think the truth is, or am I full of crap? I have a close friend, and we've done this for years. I refer to it myself as the FOC text, or full of crap text. I'll text her, or she'll text me and say, "This is what happened, and this is what I feel about." Am I full of crap? It's wonderful because it stops you. It makes you question your own surety, that you know exactly what's going on and that you have the right idea about things. Brother Thich Nhat Hanh said we need to be ready to learn throughout our lives. But I think we turn that off way too early in our lives. Turn off the curiosity. Turn off the desire and openness to learning new things. Turn off and close off our responsiveness, our listening, and being ready to be taught by our circumstances and the different perspectives of the people around us. I believe we think, yeah, I'm ready to learn. I want to learn about Buddhism. I'm going to read everything. I'm going to listen to these podcasts. I'm going to listen to this teacher. I'm going to go to this Sangha. I'm going to do this practice. But learning does not mean learning so you could just spit it out to somebody else. Learning means checking out your full of crap index. Am I full of crap now that I've learned this? Can I check myself? The key is, what does this person or this situation have to teach me? Not let me teach you what I think you need to know. Too many people are yapping and teaching, and that's clearly not bringing joy. The 5th realization tells us that as practicing bodhisattvas, that we need to listen to and learn from others so our understanding and skillful means can develop, and so we will bring others great joy. Now, joy is a hard emotion to come by these days, isn't it? Our thoughts and emotions about the anxiety we see all around us spins in our heads, so our focus is on negativity. But our job here as Bodhisattvas is to look beyond our negativity and see the small things that we can do to cause others happiness or joy or just a smile. Our job isn't to share and participate in each other's negativity, but to reverse the direction. We need to show up and not tune out. And I might add, show up and shut up. You've probably heard the story of the flower sermon where the Buddha just held up a flower. That was it. That was his sermon. I think we could use the silent sharing of natural life right now to bring joy. Unfortunately, podcasts don't lend itself to just holding up a flower. I don't think that would work for us. So I gotta talk. But the commentary on this realization says, even when we're suffering from the weight of times, we can bring joy. As bodhisattvas, we vow to ease the suffering of all beings. A key element of, quote-unquote, showing up as bodhisattvas is bodhicitta. Now, bodhicitta is being soaked in the bodhisattva ideal. I've talked about bodhicitta in many podcast episodes. You may have heard it referred to as the wish for enlightenment. Yet it is so much more than a wish. Intention without action is a wish. So there needs to be right intention to elevate it from a regular intention to right intention. And that's where bodhicitta fits in. In bodhicitta, our heart and our mind are involved. Bodhicitta requires right view combined with right intention to awaken to life in order to help others awaken to life. It is not simply a feeling like kindness or compassion. The mind combines with the heart. The mind elevates the heart with right view in a knowing sort of sentiment. Bodhicitta has this knowing or vertical dimension of elevated perspective, in addition to the on-the-ground horizontal dimension of everyday activity. Now, bodhicitta might start with and grow from compassion and the wish to alleviate suffering, but it is bigger than compassion and ultimately different than compassion. Compassion alone, the heart working without a mind awakened through right view, may initiate a social and worldly commitment to doing good as seen in engaged Buddhism or social action. This compassion focuses on working to alleviate suffering in our world as much as possible through kindness, care, and justice, and this is good. But does that kind of compassionate wish and compassionate work really end suffering? No, it doesn't. Does it? Suffering still exists. There is a bottomless pit of suffering as we look around us on both a personal scale and a universal scale. Friends, family, and neighbors suffering with illness, death, and financial losses, and overwhelm, and social injustice, and wars, and natural catastrophes, and senseless violence, and climate change, and on and on. And that bottomless pit of suffering can trigger anxiety, angst, depression, and even apathy, a giving up in the face of all that needs to be done. This suffering is part of our human condition as defined by the Buddha in the Four Noble Truths. And the Buddha went on to teach that the only way to end suffering is when each individual finds the peace that exists at her core, her true self, her Buddha nature. This peace is steady and available, despite physical or emotional circumstance. He taught that by following the Eightfold Path, you will begin to shake off your ignorance and loosen your grip on grasping to a delusional view of life so that you can become your authentic self and help others do the same thing. You may have glimpsed the peace of your authentic self in meditation, in nature, or while just sitting. The wish to help others find this peace is what bodhicitta is. And it is a very different form of compassion from how we typically think about it. Bodhicitta is boundless, expanding beyond a wish, beyond a feeling, due to the expanded perspective of right view. Bodhicitta is, in fact, the combination or interweaving of emptiness with compassion. Bodhicitta is the intention to awaken to this peace, this being in life as it really is, not how you wish it would be, so that you may help others awaken to it too. It is something different than what our social conditioning steers us to do. Our conditioning prompts us to react, yet bodhicitta prompts us to go higher than our usual automatic reaction to overwhelming emotions or endlessly looping thoughts. It asks us to look into a deeper form of knowing, a knowing that goes beyond concepts and words, where we experience both compassion and emptiness. When we are able to shake off emotional reactivity and respond only to the situation at hand without trying to be good or trying to fix things for others or the world, then we are seeing life with right view. And the intention, the right intention that springs from right view, enables us to respond to things as they are and not things as our storytelling, reactive thoughts and feelings prompt us. The freedom to experience life without reactivity shakes off our focus on the stories of suffering and allows us to focus on the inner peace that is always there for us to access. From that calm, we will do what needs to be done without worrying about not doing enough or without worrying about the next thing that may come. And what needs to be done at any moment is first showing up for others with a clear, non-reactive mind. Then you will know what to do. It might be a smile, a pat on the back, an inquiry about something in their life, a compliment to them, or holding up a flower. One of the most important practices we can do now, even when we're suffering from the weight of the times, is to bring joy. The practice I am focused on and suggest is to help or offer positivity to at least one person every day. Sort of like pay it forward, but not as transactional. It's more in the spirit of the emptiness of the gift, the giver, and the receiver. It's the type of generosity called for in the 8 realizations of great beings' teachings. So instead of complaining and worrying and doom scrolling, let's all try this. That's it for this episode. Now to some details about our Patreon community. As I have talked about previously, we have opened up our community through Patreon, making it more accessible for all listeners of this podcast who might like a place to hang out with others. I hope you check out the Patreon community where we offer insight, reflections, Dharma talks, everyday Sangha membership, and podcast extras, plus areas for discussion and support. And now we're offering more on Patreon for all members, including recordings of my Dharma talks during Sangha gatherings offered to public Patreon members and Bodhisattva level Patreon patrons. Plus, coming soon, I plan on offering post-podcast episode reflections to Sangha level Patreon patrons. Now, there are 4 Patreon membership tiers, starting at $3 a month for the Bodhisattva level. The $5 a month tier includes Sangha and community membership and podcast extras. And the $8 a month tier includes a free subscription to the Everyday Buddhism Substack, where you will find my new book as serial post, my other podcast, Words from My Teachers, which, although no new episodes are added, all 67 episodes of Words from My Teachers will remain for you to listen to, plus a Zen koans for everyday section, and other articles and practice areas. And at the $20 a month tier, you can meet with me, Wendy Shinyo Sensei, virtually through Zoom once a month for about an hour to discuss your spiritual journey and practice, and to ask questions and discuss Buddhism in general. The Everyday Sangha practices and learns together on the first Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and also on the third Saturday of the month, we have a study and sharing gathering for more support, also at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. To join these things, you can go to the Everyday Buddhism website and become a community member by joining the Patreon community. Go to www.everyday-buddhism.com and click on the link that says, quote-unquote, membership. Or you can join through Patreon at patreon.com/everydaybuddhism. You can subscribe to my Substack as part of the Patreon tier or by itself, where you can find chapters of my second book, Living Life as It Is, Looking for Right View in the Fog of Delusion. I hope to write more on that book as fall turns into winter. Links to joining both Patreon and Substack are posted in the show notes. I thank all of you who contribute in any way. This podcast, the community, the Sangha depend on your donations to continue to exist. I do not seek podcast sponsorships. I don't ask for financial commitments through paid podcast memberships, so my work and the costs needed to support what I do is entirely self-funded except for your donations. Please consider a one-time or continuing donation through Patreon or on my website's Donate tab. Or if you go to the website, you'll see a little coffee, and you can buy me a coffee by clicking on that coffee cup link. And thanks to all of you write in with comments and questions. But another way you can help is to rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It's important to share the podcast with others if you find it helpful in your life. And if you could, take a minute to comment so people will know why you love Everyday Buddhism. That's all for the announcements. So until next time, keep finding ways to make yours and everyone's days better.